In the relationship.
Oh, we going live, by the way.
Oh, hi now. All right, but yeah, that's a little crazy. I learned a little something today. A lot of
something. A lot of something.
Let me go live with you. Now, Mason, I wanted to know, do you want me to go live with your Facebook watch, or is there a way I can host like the Facebook, share the Facebook watch party? I don't know. How do I do that? Let me try it.
We can set that up. You just got to go in through like my account and be me for a minute.
Oh,
that's the only way because it's a business account.
It's a lot of trust in that relationship right there.
What you gonna do? You gonna?
You're gonna have
I don't know what you could possibly do.
And 4 side chicks, and when she's finished.
Oh yeah, well you won't find that, so you're good. Unless you want to talk to my mother or something, I don't know. You're pretty good.
All right, I never did like a share, right? Okay, so watch live, yeah.
You know when you're ready to start the show.
Whenever you're ready, let's go. Let's do it.
Let me do my R&B stuff. What's good, family, and welcome back to another episode of your new favorite podcast. As always, I'm your favorite Mason, and
you already know it's your girl Kori Deez, aka Lemon Space, aka the Wholesome Hole, aka the Vessel, aka a whole lot of AKAs in this. And we're back with another live episode of Hush Your Mouth. We have the honorable Dr. Walker here. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So today is definitely another great topic that we're jumping into as it is October, and October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So I feel like it's going to be a lot of heavy topic, conversing, stuff happening here right now. But before we jump into all of that, we're going to have a mental health exercise with Dr. Walker, which is still our mental health check-in, but it's an exercise today, right? So we're going to switch things up a little bit.
So I know the exercise is expectedly unexpected. So what we want to do is, I was going to do it separately, but because of time constraints, we're going to do it together. So I need you both kind of like close your eyes, and we do something that's called smell the flowers and blow out the candles, which is deep in, exhale. Just do it for a count of 3 and just think about a time in your life when you felt the greatest. And we're going to do it for only like 10 seconds. So on a count of 1, ready, start. We're going to smell the flowers, blow out the candles. We're going to smell the flowers, blow out the candles. And we're going to smell the flowers and blow out the candles for the final time. So you both guys have identified a good place in that you felt in your life, right? When you were happy, joyful, right? So now tell me, what was the worst time during that period?
Wow, that was a haymaker. Like it was.
No, you don't stall it. Just answer.
Oh, Mason, go ahead.
That's stalling. I think what came to my mind was just recently I went to Fright Fest with my kids. So that was a good moment. What made it bad is like I don't think I planned well enough, so we didn't get to do as much as we wanted to do. So that was a little disappointing, but I learned the lesson for next time. So it felt great hanging out, just me and the girls, and going to Six Flags Fright Fest, something we've never done before. And then I was a little disappointed with myself because we didn't plan well enough, and we got there at 8. The park closed at 12, so it was a little disappointing.
Well, we were talking that day. I was like, good for you.
I was held against my will though, but
I was like, suck it up. But for me, I feel like it was probably during the holiday. During the holidays is always like one of my favorite times of the year. But last year was different for me because I had 27 family members in one place at one time. And I created my own holiday and called it Thanksgiving. And I thought that was great because I gave out presents to everybody. Everybody was happy. It was just something different and unique. The worst time, I can't pinpoint an exact one.
So when you're able to identify the worst time or the worst period in that situation, like Mason shared, it's almost like you have weighed the evidence about what you can do differently in the future. So I think Mason made a good plan. I'm going to plan differently in the future. So it's always looking back at those reflective moments and not beating yourself up, but taking the lesson learned and moving forward with better, whether it's planning, better ideas about the Christmas holiday in terms of how you want to have 27 people in one space.
Oh no, we're never doing that again. It was amazing in the moment, but we're never doing that.
So what you learned. So that's what we call we call that lesson learned. Lesson learned, goal achieved. So you learned the lesson, you got a goal achieved, and now moving forward, the idea of what you want is going to look different. So you do planning different, you do thought processing different. So that was just like the brief how I start with some of my patients.
Right. I like that one. That's a good one.
I like that too. Lesson learned, goal achieved. I like that. Well, Dr. Walker, I always say that therapists need therapists. So yes. I'm going to be your, not your therapist because I'm not qualified, but I'm going to ask you how you doing today.
I actually probably had better days. As you guys know, I have surgery on my knee. I, in all transparency, because I'm just that kind of person, I went to my own doctor and apparently I'm losing blood somewhere and my blood count has actually dropped down to 7. So after today, I will be going into the hospital for a few days to have some infusions and transfusions to get my blood levels back up to where they need to be. But lesson learned, take your iron pills when you're supposed to.
Because that's the first thing I said to you. I said you ain't been taking your iron pills.
This is it. Yeah, put up with. See, this is it. This is it.
But you know what that means? That means that I might just have to check in on you a little bit more. We talk all day and all night, so I'm going to have to be like, did you take your iron?
Add that to the check-in. Yeah.
That's the check-in. So okay. Sometimes people do need other people to hold them accountable, you know? Like
it's true. Because I look at those pills every day. I'm like, not today.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So why domestic violence? Besides the awareness, I feel like we have this platform and we do a lot of topics here, and it's always fun and games, but we still need to be able to spread awareness and shed light onto some serious things that affect people more than they even want to talk about. And here on Hush Your Mouth, I think everybody that comes on the show comes here with transparency and tries to be informative and things like that. So I think that domestic violence is one of those topics where it's like so many people are scared to actually speak out about it, but we're going to get into the nitty gritty today. Like we're going to talk about it. And y'all know I'm always passionate about our awareness topics, and that's because I feel like I've been blessed to be able to go through some things, but also see my way out of a few things. And this topic is no different. So I'm going to just say, Mason, let's jump right into it because we ain't got no time to waste. We got a lot of questions, a lot of content, a lot of. Let's jump into it.
I guess we'll start off with some facts about domestic violence. As everybody knows, as Kori just said, October is a National Awareness Month for domestic violence. The National Coalition Against Domestic Violence is dubbed this month that, and they have themed it with the theme #WeAreResilient to commemorate the survivors of domestic violence. So that's one of the things that's going on. That's one of the reasons why we chose this month. We had to recognize and talk about domestic violence right now. Some of the key facts that I know, I'll just start off with me, and then I guess we could go around and say some key facts that we know. I know that domestic violence is is a pattern of controlling behaviors that one partner uses to get power over the other, including physical violence, threat of physical violence to get control, emotional, mental abuse, and sexual abuse. I know that boys who witness domestic violence are 2 times as likely to abuse their own partners and children as they become adults. I know that every 90 seconds in the US, a woman is assaulted or beaten. So those are some of the 3 things that I researched and I know as facts. I have a few more, but I'm gonna just share the stage.
I think that another key point that sometimes gets overlooked is financials are utilized as a way of control as well.
Mm-hmm. And it's so funny because people, when we was talking about this topic and they knew that we was talking about this topic today, the first thought is always physical. But people don't realize that there are so many other forms of domestic abuse, domestic violence. And that just tells me that there's people out there who's probably being abused and they don't know that they're being abused. And that's a little
yeah, that's a large number. I think that people look at when they say DV, they say physical because it's what you can see. I can see you have a black eye. I can see you have scratches on your neck. I can see you have marks where you were choked out. But those things actually physically heal. What lasts the longest is the emotional abuse that both men and women succumb to. And it's not widely spoke about. And I think that putting, like you said, using this time to bring light to this topic is going to be essential for a lot of people because you don't recognize abuse until it's too late sometimes.
Absolutely. And the facts that I have about domestic abuse is 20 people per minute are victims of physical violence by intimate partner, and that's 10 million women and men per year, because men can also be abused, ladies. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men experience physical violence in their lifetime. 1 in 7 and 1 in 18 men experience stalking, victimization. Stalking is a form of domestic violence and domestic abuse. There's 20,000 phone calls to the hotline a day.
Mm-hmm.
That's a large number of people.
And think about the that are not calling.
That's the part that's very concerning as well. Domestic violence in the African American or Black and Latin community is more common than any other community. It also, honestly, Alaska, but that's another story. But yeah. All right. Domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women, actually higher than car accidents, actually higher than any other accident, huh?
Rapes, muggings, rapes.
Yeah, yeah. So we gotta, yeah.
I just want to add one key word that Mason used was the fact that the idea of control, and that word is the primary target when you're talking about domestic violence, rape, or anything else, because it's another person's egotistical ideas that they need to control something or someone. And the topic is so broad and it's getting broader because now we have the same sex partners, the transgender partners, and those are falling under the radar because of the other underlying conditions or ideas that are associated with those relationships.
And actually, domestic abuse in the LGBTQ community is pretty high as well. I gotta get the statistics on that, but it might be after the African American and Latin community, the next one might be, and I don't want to say what it might be, so I'm going to really look at it right now.
But the reason why it could be too is because when you look at same-sex relationships, society viewed it as just a fight between 2 people of the same gender. So now it has to be a differentiation between just 2 females or 2 males fighting, and actually looking at the scope of what the relationship, because if a female just smacks me, it's going to be a fight. But if this is someone who I'm dating, is it now just a fight or is it domestic violence?
Right.
How is it reported?
It's definitely domestic violence if you guys are intimate. And also, domestic violence is not only just because it's like the person that you have a relationship. Domestic violence takes place within our families.
Oh, absolutely.
So I want people to be aware of that too. Your cousins, your mom, your dads, grandpa, grandma. It's
Everybody.
everybody that is should I say intimate or has a connection to you or something?
I think that anyone who has a connection with you, because family connections are also intimate. It's not intimacy in terms of romantic, but there's a level of intimacy involved in that sister to sister, brother sister relationship.
Right. And you know, I forgot to shed a little light on this because I just was talking about it before when we was going live. I just found out that there was like a heavy presence of domestic abuse within the disability community.
Yes.
Community. Yeah. So I was like, wow, that's a little crazy. Like anybody can be a victim, and anybody can actually be an abuser.
Absolutely.
Y'all want to go to the next question, or do we even have people here yet?
People logging on, just no one's commented yet. Say hi. It's okay, guys, to say hi. I know we're talking about a serious topic, but it's okay to say hi and chime in and comment
It's
along the
definitely
way.
okay to say hi. It's definitely okay to chime in. I want you guys to comment. I want you guys to let us know your thoughts. All of the guys watching. So again, why are we shedding light? Oh no, we skipped that because we kind of talked about it. Got it. Do we know anyone has been personally affected? Mason.
So I've been in my past job. I'm going to use that. In my past job, I've had encounters with domestic violence, and it's gone so far, or as far as to the person who was actually reporting it to me at the time. They were married and they were being abused to the point where he got her pregnant. She didn't want to be pregnant. She went full term with the kids. She ended up having twins. She ended up shipping the kids back to Africa. There was some disdain for the kids based on the way that they were conceived. She would break down and cry. She got pregnant again after those twins. And she tried to hurt herself a couple of times by either one, not eating, not taking her prenatal vitamins and things of that nature. And he did everything from emotionally abuse her to sexually abuse her to physically abuse her. He ran the gambit on that, and that was a lot to do with her culture. Like I said, she came from Africa, and that was, her culture. Her parents were encouraging her to stay and not leave the situation and continuously just go through this. This is his right as a man. So a lot of that came from culture, and we had to get her help in different ways. At times she fainted one time while we were at work, and we had to call the ambulance and things of that nature. And it was a scary situation because you don't know what to do in that. And especially if you're not being supported by your family members who know what's going on way more intimately than I knew what was going on. So yeah, that was my example of seeing somebody actually go through it, go through the stages, want help, can't get help, trying to figure out how to help this person as much as I can because her family was not a safe haven as most people have. So
Yeah.
that was one of the stories that came to mind when we're talking about this.
That was definitely a lot, and
Yeah.
I feel for her because that's like one of the worst things when you want help and you want to seek help, but there's nobody really being supportive of you. And that further falls. Hi, Nalia. Thank you for commenting. And you can leave that one on the screen because I don't want to forget. But that is that's like one of the worst feelings, right?
And to go through pregnancy, that's usually, it's supposed to be, in my eyes, a ginormous, engaging, bringing everyone together, loving situation, and your family's there and they're encouraging this, and then you're holding contempt for those children, not because of anything that they did, but just because of the way they were conceived. So It's tough. It's tough.
It definitely tough. So, have I ever? First of all, Nalia, I want to address your comment. She says I have while pregnant, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. Especially while you're pregnant. That's basically what Ethan is saying. At any point in time, not just in pregnancy, but no woman, nobody deserves to be abused. Period. That's just it. So, me personally, I have my own DV story. Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know. I didn't even write no notes for this question for real. I was like, I'm just going to talk, but I don't even know what part to start at. It was crazy from stalking to being held at gunpoint to having like I have a slit in this eye and a slit in this eye to having my kids be scared and fearful. To being intimidated, to even intimidating like my family members, like actually showing up to my family members' homes when I'm trying to get away from that situation. It was a very trying time and it was very scary. Um, at times, it was scary. I'm gonna say at times only because I'm a fighter and I think I'm a little tough one out there. So you know, you're just not gonna get the best of me all the time, but at the end of the day, when you dealing with a man as a woman, you can't really be the man. I want you girls to know that too. And also, we got to be mindful of the people that hit and then don't expect to get hit back. That's abuse. I don't know. I don't even know if this is the time to even say that. But there is a lot of times that happens. Do y'all agree or no?
Many times it happens. And it's provoking. It's almost like I'm going to push your buttons because I need this response. And for some women, statistically, it's because they have admitted to thinking that this is how a man will show me he loves me. Statistically speaking, that's what some of the thought processes are with some women. For some other women who are fighters, it's almost like I dare you. Like we can go toe to toe.
Yeah.
And then for the same kind of woman, if you hit me, I'm going to get you locked up. But it's still provoking. So never taking the side of violence for anyone. But for me, it's always the responsibilities that we all share in relationships and knowing when to push away from the table. And sometimes it's not easy. It's not easy when it's a cycle, when it's been years under the belt, when you are locked in, when you have no other resources, when you're afraid to reach out or you're embarrassed to reach out because you don't want to hear that I told you to leave him. Nobody wants to hear that. That's not going to help.
And you know what? Honestly, like my situation, I feel like it wasn't any of those things. It wasn't a financial situation where like I was depending on this person because I had everything on my own already, right? This person could only add to me rather. But it was definitely one of those things where I wanted to keep my family intact. And that's another reason why a lot of people, well, we didn't get there yet, but that's a reason why a lot of people do stay. They stay because they want to maintain their family and keep their family together. At this point, it was like, I'm on my second child's father. I want to make this work. Yeah, he has these issues. Okay, it happened once or he yelled or whatever. And actually, the first moment that it actually happened to me, we were leaving the hospital with the baby and he pushed me like onto the hospital bed because he wanted to carry the carrier with the baby. And I was like, you could have just asked me that. But I was so like flustered and didn't want to make a scene in the hospital that I just held it down and just went to the car. But I felt so like low, like I just had a baby 2 days ago. And then 2 weeks after that is when the first incident had happened, when he came to pick up the baby 2 weeks later. And it was a crazy ride after that. At that moment, I should have knew, well, this is where it's heading, like for good. But I just was like, I was confused. I think I was confused. I don't know. What do you think, Dr. Walker? Because you know you was present.
And I was present. I think the situation with you, and like with a lot of other females, is that the false ideation of wanting to keep the family together, ignoring the flags because you know what, I'm a fighter. He's not gonna get the best of me, so I can stay in this reign. And ignoring those flags, healthy and unhealthy, because the idea of what you wanted was beautiful, but the reality that you were facing was horrible. And it's at some point people have to realize the reality that they're in and move accordingly if they can safely. You know, it's not, sometimes it's not safe for someone to reach out and say, I need help. Sometimes that fear of, like you said, being at gunpoint, being held hostage, that trembles you to the point where you're not going to get the help. And even when the outsider asks you, are you okay? Or, it's a signal that a lot of females can use in those situations that will let someone know that I need help. And not using the signals. Yep. So it for you, it was in my opinion, it was a unhealthy situation. But when you came to yourself, like we just did the exercise, mistakes made, goals accomplished, you were able to see outside yourself and you were able to separate from what you thought you wanted to what your reality was. And you began to move in that reality. Through pain, through tears, but you were able to. So it's a coping skill that even growing up in a trauma household that you acquired that gave you the strength and the support that you had to move out of that situation.
Right. And actually, the situation didn't really end until I moved to Georgia. When I moved to Georgia, and it was like on some like fly by night type stuff. Like I literally, like the things that you see in the movie, like I literally like left, went to Georgia, got a place, came back. My house was already packed. My kids were packed, got in a van and left most of my stuff behind and just took what we could to Georgia. And even when I went to Georgia though, the whole point was to escape this person. This person was still coming to see me in Georgia. That was a little crazy. It took a few months, but his goal was, let me find out where she is. Let me still have access to her, so on and so forth. And it began to be one of those things where this is another form of abuse. And I'm going to tell y'all, I was getting text messages. It's like 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Your flight leaves at 4 o'clock. Don't miss it. I don't want you to waste my money. Or if you waste my money, it's a problem. So now I have to hurry up, rush to get my children. And now we're getting on a plane or a bus to go to New York for what? I don't know, because this person like demanded that we be there. And that's another form of abuse.
It's a control.
It's a controlling type of thing. Yeah. It was really a lot, from climbing into my windows at night. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. It was a lot. So ladies, you are not alone.
Right.
Like they said, 1 in 3 women have experienced it in their lifetime. I'm 1 in 3. That was tough, y'all. All right, Mason. Oh, well, no, Dr. Walker, have you ever known? Oh, you know a lot of people. You're a doctor.
Yeah. I didn't realize until I started to study the intricacies of behavioral health and behavioral theory that I was somewhat a victim of domestic violence, but not physical, more emotional.
Something
I know this is a shock to. Yeah. So a 7-year relationship. I was in a 7-year relationship with someone, and I had to, because I wanted to keep him, I had to make him feel like he was the center of my world, like no one else mattered. So I would self-isolate to the point that he didn't know I had family that I can hang out with or friends I can hang out with. And it was my own ideology of, if I want him to feel like he's the only one that matters, this is what I have to do. And as the relationship kept going, he would start hanging out with his friends. So I'm like, oh, so we hanging out now? Let's all hang out. So I thought I was going to hang out. Who knew? And it turned into this real big argument where he said to me, I will always know what you're doing because you're not smarter than me. right? So that stuck with me to the point where I was afraid to do certain things outside of my norm, which was go work 2 jobs, go to school, do my papers, do his papers, because I didn't want to bring unwanted drama, so to speak, in my house. I lived in a 4-income household. I had everything I wanted, but I didn't realize I had put myself in a situation where it was a controlling situation. It was emotional and somewhat financial. So yeah, I know you're a little wide-eyed on that, and I'm pretty sure we'll have more dialogue. So recognizing, your own, it's almost like your self-worth. Whether you're a male or female, it kind of boils down to self-esteem and self-worth. And I think that that's a contributing factor that allows cycles of abuse to continue in those relationships.
And cycles are really important. Like, to know that there are cycles in abuse. All abuse comes in cycles. It's like, it'll be like they did bad, now they're gonna do good for a little while.
Right.
Then the bad's gonna come back. And you just have to be aware of that and be mindful. Don't think that because they said, it was an accident, I didn't mean it. No, they made a choice. Right. They meant it. They knew it. I feel like they knew what they were doing.
Absolutely.
What the person who I experienced this with used to say to me all the time was, you only respect violence. That's like saying, like, you need to get your ass beat for you to understand. No. Like, that's and that's how they would come to me, like, oh no, you only respect violence. So now it's like,
but that's a common belief on both sides. I have worked with a lot of females and a few men who believes that getting beat is the only way to show your love and affection.
Yeah.
And they would do certain things or have certain actions to provoke that response out of somebody, because it's not so much the physical abuse what happens, it's the aftermath of the abuse. I love you, I'm sorry you would make me do this to you, and now I get that emotional connection with that person. And that's what makes it so difficult in people who look and remain in these kind of relationships. And it's not easy to come out of. There are some relationships that I have women who are in DV situations now because they feel they can't leave. And in doing therapy with them, it's not that I can just say pick up and go. You can't say that, because there's a psychological and egotistical component to abuse on both sides that has to be recognized and has to come out. So that's why cycles do continue, and it's for years.
And I'm sorry, Miss, I know you got something you want to say, but I want to also add, it's very hard for the people that are around you to watch. I lost a lot of friendships and relationships because they couldn't sit and watch me go through that, because they believed I was so much better, I was stronger, and they wanted me to do better, but they knew that I was going to continue to go on with that situation. And it wasn't until my sister told me, when you sick and tired of being sick and tired, that's when this is going to be over. I don't want to hear that it's done and it's over. You walking around here with a black eye, you got a busted lip, y'all sitting in the hospital together. That's the craziest thing that I think. Out of all the crazy things that I did, I think that might be the craziest. Sitting in the hospital with the person who gave me a cut in my eye and a black eye, and he got a black eye too, and we sitting there, and he like, oh, you better tell him whatever. That's crazy. So it gets real deep. It gets real heavy with domestic violence situations. But Mason, what did you have that you want to say?
I mean, I just wanted to jump back into the part where we talked about just people thinking that that's a form of love that they need. I know that I've been on dates and I've dated somebody who, I never dated her after this, but this statement sticks with me forever. So nice date. She was smart, great conversation. And she said this one statement that I'll never forget. And she said, I don't think somebody really loves me unless there's some violence or there's some physical altercation.
Wow.
And she was dead ass. She didn't use those words. She basically said, yo, if he don't beat my ass, I don't think he loved me. And I was like, you think your significant other has to beat your ass for them to love you? And she was like, yeah, I mean, it's a part of it. Like it's just something that I need to feel like I'm loved. And that was the end of that conversation and every other conversation, because that for me was a red flag. That's not something that I can help you with. So that was something that she was honest about. But at the same point in time, when we said that there's people that want that violence and encourage that violence, not that, for whatever the end result is, the love yous at the end or whatever it is, however psychologically deep that gets, it's true. Like, I've encountered those people. Those people are real.
Wow.
People are real.
And even and you know what? I believe that God sends you things in tests, like repeatedly to test you and see if you kind of like learned whatever the lesson was supposed to be learned. And so after that particular situation, I had dated someone else during my time, because I did take time apart from dating, a time away from dating, because I felt like I needed to heal. I needed to figure out what was it about me that attracted this, or what I needed to what is it called? I don't know, revamp myself. Is that a stage, Dr. Walker?
Yeah, I just had an aha moment. That's why I said that.
Oh, okay. I was like, you saw your finger go up. So I dated this person, and we dated briefly, but he took me away on a trip and he fought me on the vacation. I couldn't believe it. And then was calling me and like, I'm sorry, I apologize. Don't ruin my life because I have a career. Like, please, like basically becoming the victim himself.
Narcissist.
You know who I'm talking about, but yeah. Yeah. So ladies, guys, fellas, this topic right here, it gets real deep. It's real heavy. It comes in many shapes and forms, and you just have to be aware. And that's exactly why we're doing this topic. Let's jump into the comments real quick. I see we got some comments now. Everybody's showing up. Hey, sweetheart. Well, your red flag went up, but you wanted to ignore it because of love, and you didn't want to believe it. Actually, my mom was telling me to stay with him, but let's not talk about that. And now because you loved him, and that's a communication. You didn't. Oh, okay. Is that the only comments? The person?
Yes. Yes. And hold on. No, hold on.
No.
Yes, he's crazy. The abuser knows what they are doing because they have issues for the fear that you are going to leave them. An abuser will take advantage of a mental person who is vulnerable to big time. Narcissistic behavior is not allowed, period. Amen, sister. Let's go into, well, how does it begin, right? There's actually, and what are the red flags and warning signs? Since our comments are talking about the red flags and the warning signs. Am I supposed to answer that first? Let me see. I can't see. Oh, Mason, you got that one.
I mean, for me, like my example of on a date, and when people say certain things, you believe them. When you ask about their past, you believe what they say. You listen to the context clues. People will tell you the absolute truth. You just have to listen and believe them. So red flags will go up. Past domestic situations, going to court for domestic situations. Different things will come up in conversation that you should pay attention to, because past behavior can be indicative of future behaviors. So just pay attention to that. I'm not saying it's always true, but if you have several red flags on the same issue, you should pay attention to that. So I just say listening to people and what they're saying, because they'll tell you. For me, it was that girl telling me exactly how she likes to be treated, and I'm saying to myself, no, that's not a relationship I can be a part of. I'm not going to jail because you want me to, smack you around, and you're going to do everything to get me to smack you around because that's what you desire. That's your end result. That's your goal. So if you're going to do everything to get me to that point, I don't want to be put in that situation. So I listened to her, and I knew that I wasn't the person for her. So she gave me the red flags, and I listened.
Right. I'm happy that you listened because you was not about to be out here slapping on nobody. Like, why would you do that?
I'm
You had to
telling
go
you because that's how she feels. That's how
You
she
the
receives love.
R&B guy. You
I
can't
know.
possibly.
Apparently, I don't. I'm not even gonna say what I. Apparently, I'm the R&B guy.
I'm
But yeah,
sorry.
I mean, it's red flags. It's all those things, and you just pay attention to them. Little things, little pushes. That's a red flag.
Absolutely. So the second time that I experienced this personally, I didn't expect this guy because he has like such a high respect in regard for like his mom and the women that are in his life. So I really didn't expect that to take place between us. So it really caught me off guard with him. Um, but then as we got to dive a little deeper with them sorries and he became the victim, I was like, oh no, you got some real like narcissistic behaviors here. You need to go see a doctor for real because something ain't right. The first situation, I was friends with this person before we even became romantic partners. And when he was dating in his previous relationship, he told me some things that he had done to that woman. And I didn't pay attention to it because I guess it didn't have anything to do with me. And then the way the story was told. And you know, that's kind of ignorant because if he could do it to her, he could do it to me. It wasn't until I was in the situation to say, oh, he did it to her. So now this is what's going on. Because if you're capable of hitting a woman, period, like if you don't hit women, then you don't hit women. But if you're capable of hitting any woman, then I could be any woman of any different side. So those were some of the red flags. The fact that I want to say like jail mentality, because that whole you only respect violence thing is like jail mentality and survival skills, I guess, in a sense for that particular individual. So those were kind of like the warning signs that I should have seen, I guess. I don't know. Dr. Walker, I do have why people abuse though.
Okay, if you want to go into it, you can, because it definitely starts at different stages of your age. It starts with your upbringing. It starts with what you see as a child. It starts
Right.
what you become, what you begin to accept as a child. Exposure.
Right.
It's different things. Like there are some people who actually can learn DB from watching different television shows or video games because that's what they see. And the violence, it's almost like an adrenaline rush to them that they speed off of it. They get something from it. And like Mason said, the chief thing is that control. That and generally I can't remember the statistics on it, but most men who abuse women have low self-esteem, and they utilize this form of control to give themselves a boost in their ego and who they are because now they're dominating something.
Mm-hmm. Mm. We didn't use none of our sound effects today, Mason. What is going on? We don't need
She's
them.
saying too much real stuff. I don't know. I don't feel like gunshots is indicative of the domestic violence topic. So I'm gonna give the applause because I don't think gunshot is the right move today.
No.
Sorry, I had to readjust my knee.
Oh yeah, I know
Okay.
you're moving around over there, but I definitely have that abuse is a learned behavior from family and friends. And I have that domestic violence stems from a desire to gain and maintain the power and control, as we said, to restrict the partner's lives often because their feelings, the abuser's feelings, should be the priority, which is what Dr. Walker has said. And it's to like if they're trying to dismantle your equality, like make you seem like you're less than them, that is also a red flag. And like you are undeserving of any kind of respect. That's definitely also another red flag or warning sign. There is a lot more I have to go into, but hold on because I got like 8 screens open on here. So Mason, I'm gonna assume that you never had any friends that might have hit the person, male or female.
I had to think about this one.
Like, how would you deal with your friend? You know,
You have a straightforward conversation. Like, yo,
Absolutely.
that's not a cool thing. Like, you would well be me being who I am. I don't think that anybody would come to me bragging that I just beat my bitch's ass last night. That would not be a conversation that
Not.
would ever be entertained in my presence. Just be a me. Just how I've carried myself and how I carry myself and how my friends carry themselves. So no one would be comfortable enough to have that type of conversation. If I've ever was in that situation, I think it would be a direct conversation. First of all, especially if they have kids, like I'm definitely going in because of the simple fact that that's you're not abusing one person, you're abusing two people. And if you have more than two people, three people, four, whatever, however many kids that you have, and if you think that they're not hearing, they're hearing. If you think that they're not feeling, they're feeling. If you think that they're not seeing, they seeing. Like all this is you're abusing an entire household, and that has ripple effects far beyond anything that you could ever see. Even if you did it once, twice, or whatever, people be like, oh, it only happened once. Only happened once can have a ripple effect that will last for generations. So for me, it's a direct conversation because that can't be something that's celebrated, tolerated, or accepted. But that's just
Absolutely.
me.
Give yourself an applause. You deserve
Okay,
it.
oh, because no gunshots.
Okay.
And that's just because like I just can't, like, domestic violence, child abuse, those are the two things. If you know anything about me, those are the two things that probably are my line in the sand, can't cross, like triggering things. And it's because those are helpless people, and I think that that's just the biggest form of bullying and control, and just like something that's disgusting to me. So that's how I
Absolutely.
feel.
I agree. So I do have it pulled up here. So common the common signs of abusive behavior in a partner include telling you that you never do anything right, showing extreme jealousy of your friends or the time spent away from them, preventing or discouraging you from spending time with friends, family members, or peers, insulting, demeaning, or shaming you, especially in front of other people, um, preventing you from making your own decisions, including about work or attending school, controlling finances in the household without discussion, including taking your money or refusing to provide you money for necessary expenses, pressuring you to have sex or perform sex acts that you are not comfortable with, pressuring you to do or use drugs or alcohol, intimidating you through threatening looks or actions, insulting your parenting or threatening to harm or take away your children or pets, intimidating you with weapons like guns, knives, bats, or mace, and destroying your belongings in your home. So, absolutely a lot of stuff there. The one that out of these that stuck out to me was the intimidating you through the threatening looks and actions. And I think that was I think I went through it all with this person. He was just an abuser at this point with these signs, because we would be out places and he would just like threaten me, like, you think that I care about these people? You think that I won't make a scene? Oh, I'm known for making scenes. We can make a scene. And I'm a person that's like, when I'm outside, no, I have like a face. I have like a presence about myself. So I don't want it to be a scene. I don't want to have to act crazy with you. So I would just try to, zip it and keep it tight till I get in the car. And then now I'm acting crazy. But then now we might be fighting on the road. So it's just, it was a tough time.
Some of the key indicators that you listed, all factual, all statistically and evidence-based, proven. One of the key things that Mason also shared is that it is a learned behavior. It is something that you see. And this is where, like I was sharing with you earlier, how domestic violence is not known or related to a mental health diagnosis. It's secondary to a primary diagnosis, which sometimes is a personality disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, anxiety, panic, codependency, narcissism. Is a list. But generally, it is something that you have witnessed some period of your life, and you've made it one of your norms. You've made it a value to you, and you utilize it as a value because it gives you a lot of control over a situation where you may not have control at work, where you may be a frontline worker, but at home I can be a boss because I control the narrative in the household. So it's so many different components that make domestic violence. It should be a mental health ICD code recognized by the DSM in the American Psychiatry Department, but right now it's not. It is so broad in the spectrum of abuse, emotional, physical, financial, that it's always hard because the people who are victimized or abused normally don't really report it because they don't see anything wrong with it. The most people report is the physical, because I see you have a black eye. I see that you're choked out, but they don't. Those physical appearances heal. It's what's inside of you that has begun to deconstruct who you are as a person. So now you're not operating from your wise mind. You're operating from your emotional mind. And when you're in your emotional mind, anything goes. Anything that's going to make you comfortable, it's allowed, because you know what? I found the comfort zone and I know how to navigate in this comfort zone, even if it means me getting punched in the stomach every once in a while, which is not healthy relationships.
Right. Somebody on Instagram asked me, did you become, after being in this particular situation, then did you move forward and start to kind of like maybe abuse people moving forward? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. That moving forward, in any situation, not every situation, but in the relationships that I was in, I was more likely to hit you now.
First or second?
First. So those type of things can actually happen as well. Once you are a victim, Dr. Walker is rising. Yes, give it a plus because she's always rising. She's always rising on our show, but I don't want to sit here and make excuses for it, because I would know, like, oh my God, I shouldn't probably have reacted that way. That was me now, extending my traumas onto the next person, which is, go ahead.
Now, I don't want to say you extended your trauma. What you actually started to do was self-preserve. So, and self-protect. So before you get me, I'm going to get you. And that's a common thread in those relationships. And you know me, I always try to be fair on both sides. So it's also healthy and unhealthy, because you want to protect not just you at that point, you're protecting you and your kids. You're protecting you and what belongs to you, which are those kids. So it's healthy, and of course it's unhealthy, because that's not how you wanted to engage in that relationship.
And there's absolutely better ways to express myself, or my frustration, or my fear for whatever could be happening in that moment. There's absolutely better ways to go about that. So did I know that I had to do some self-work? Absolutely. And I think that's kind of covered now. So what was I gonna say? We're on the red flags conversation, but because Dr. Walker, you experienced something with me, and I want to publicly say thank you so much, because, and I don't know if you're comfortable with talking about it, but I'm comfortable with talking about it. But the day that I was held, first of all, I want to know, did you see warning signs or red flags with the person I'm discussing?
Yes.
How did I? Well, did we talk about
Let me. Okay. You are a very strong-willed person, and when you set your sights on something, you're locked in. And as people who know you, know that you can't be convinced to do anything outside of what you feel you want to do and what's right for you, despite people telling you, just do this, just do that, just do this. This is who you are. One thing I can say for you during that process, I was never afraid of losing you to what was happening. I knew in me, knowing you, and just that this was something outside of the abuse that you had to experience in order for you to let go of what was bounding you. There were so many other components to it that bound you that if I would have pushed you, I would have lost you. You didn't want to hear just leave. You didn't want to hear you'll be okay. You wanted what you thought you needed until that defining moment where you said, no, my kids. You had to look at your own face and see what everyone else was showing you. So that's what it was for me. Like, I don't know, people do know our history and they don't. But when I began to work with you, like I say to all of you, were my child. And I would do whatever I needed to do to protect what I believe I needed to protect. And that's how I have to know my kids to know how to protect them. And that's how I had to engage during that process with you.
So that was real deep. I'm like trying to hold back. All right. So people don't know, but we're about to share it here on Hush Your Mouth. When I was being held at gunpoint, the person that I called to come and get me was Dr. Walker. She showed up. And she did, because she was like, do I need to bring the police? I was like, please don't bring the police. You know, like, and I just want to know, what were you thinking and what were you feeling? What was going through your mind in that moment? We talked about this, but
what was going on in my mind? All I can do, I'm a Christian. I prayed. I'm like, God, you already know what the situation is. And I know I can't put my hands on it a lot, but I have to know that is she making the right decision about do not bring the police there? Then it clicked. If the police would have came, it would have heightened the situation, because then you would have become a hostage with a person with a gun who's going to protect himself. And that could have meant your life. So I couldn't risk your life.
That was a very tough situation.
It was. I knew if I had to go into the house, I would have to go into the house. Bottom line, hands down. Because I knew him a little bit and he knew me a little bit. He had a little bit of respect for me. And he knows I wasn't rah-rah coming in to argue and fight with you. Just if I had to come in, I believe he would have allowed me to come in and take you out. I don't think he would have made it any worse. Stop it.
Okay. All right, let's move on, y'all. Let's jump into these comments.
I have a quick question before we jump into the comments, Dr. Walker. I have a quick question for you. You said earlier that even though you saw what was happening and you knew what was happening, you understood what was happening, in general, as somebody who may be on the outside and they're seeing their family member go through something along these lines, or they're seeing somebody that they love and care for go through these lines, like, is the best thing to actually get involved, or is the best thing to be supportive as possible, because that person needs to realize and see for themselves where they're at? How do you best support somebody in that scenario in general? Let's not make it just about Kori.
No, it's true. It's true. It's for me. You have to always be present. If it's 4 o'clock in the morning, you have to be present. Because it's such a narrow line, because you know the person's going through it. The person knows that you know they're going through it, but the person is not ready to leave. So if you push and they push back, it keeps you at a perimeter where you are no longer in the know. And you want to be in the know. You want to know what's happening. And the only way to do that is to be present. And it's the hardest. And it's the most painful thing that you can go through, especially when it's family and whatever you constitute as your family, because you want what's best for them. But if you push it, you're going to push yourself away. And I know that the thoughts come, well, I could have prevented it. I could have did this. And the reality is you can't go past what a person wants. Say we call the police when we know the situation is happening. Who becomes the outcast? Who becomes the one who is, you did this to me?
It's you.
He left me or she left me because you called the police on them. It's you. So it's always to be present. It's always to listen. It's always to support. It's always to give the underlining, you can do this. If you want to do this, I'm here with you. I'll walk this walk with you, whatever you need. And even if they don't take your hand at that time, in their heart and in their mind, they know that you're present. It's unfortunate that there are some DV cases that do end in death because the person, DV is so unpredictable. It's so unpredictable because you never know when there's going to be a tick, tick, boom, and that boom is your last one. It's hard, but always, always, always be present, no matter what it looks like.
Because me as a man and having like being around females and things like that, and I'm seeing scenarios like that play out. When I saw the coworker that I talked about, when I saw that scenario played out, like physically there's so many things that I could have done. Physically there's so many things that I could have gotten myself involved in someone else's domestic dispute. And I don't think that, like, the thing that kept me back from doing that is because I knew that in those scenarios, 9 times out of 10, just like you said, they both look at you as the enemy now. So now you become the catalyst to whatever happens next. And that was like a big fear of mine to not get involved, because with domestic situations, you know, you get involved, you may stop that one scenario, but then both of them start looking at you like you're the enemy. And the person you're trying to help the most is the one that looks at you and is like, they're going to close you out. And then the next time that happens, they're not going to tell you, or you're not going to know about it. And then they're all alone. And then you're even more helpless than you were in the beginning. So it's a very, very thin line. You're trying to walk, because you want to make sure you support them. But at the same time, it's like, me as a man, not being able to, or not stepping in hurts way more than anything else, because there's nothing you can do. But you know that if you step in, you're only going to make it worse for that person, because they're not going to go all the way through, because they're not ready to. And you're going to make it worse for, you know, if there's kids involved, it just makes it worse. So it's a hard line to walk and to step back when you know you want to step forward.
And I will, and I'm sorry, and I will say that you are absolutely right, Mason. That I personally tried. I didn't involve a lot of my family members in those disputes, because I didn't want them to do something that would have then, you know what I mean? Like, it escalated, and I knew I was like, and then they'd be like, oh, I did all of this. I'm in jail serving time now, and you back with that man. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it was like, no.
That hurts too.
That hurts too. So people have to be mindful of those things. Sometimes temporary feelings, right? Like you're angry in the moment and stuff like that. But and something is happening to you, and you have the right to be angry. But if you're not ready to leave, I say, I'm not going to say don't go and talk to anyone, because there should be people there to support you. And I would want you to go talk to someone and to seek the help that you need. But don't involve someone and encourage permanent actions or decisions based off a temporary, in the moment feeling. You know, that's real big. So that was just my take on that.
I wanted to ask, because Mason's question was very, very, very keen. Because you called me, and because I had went through some of the processes with you, how did you feel that I never tried to get you to leave? Did you think that I made the right decision in just supporting you, or do you think I should have done something more?
Well, this goes back to you saying that you know me, and we have that kind of relationship where we talk openly and freely, like, and we're really transparent with one another. And I really value that about our relationship. You told me, like, hey, this is not a good situation for you. This is crazy. Whatever the case is, you did express your feelings and your frustrations, but to tell me to leave, that's my own choice. And you knew that I'm going to make my own choice regardless. So I didn't feel any type of way. I wasn't upset or angry with anyone that supported me during that time. I value them. I was really more so upset for the people who left, because they felt like they couldn't handle watching me go through something that I was actually going through. I was more upset about that. Like, how do you feel like your feelings are more important than what I'm the one that's actually experiencing it? I just want you to sometimes listen to me, or I want you to sometimes support me, or if you see this thing happening in the act, jump in. No, but you know, and that was really how I felt. But no, I wasn't upset with you. I love you.
Another key thing Mason said is that when there's children involved, a way that you can get a person to get help without it being you getting the help is you do involve ACS. You do it anonymously. If you really feel that these children are in danger, then that's how you get involved as well. And you do it anonymously. And that way the person doesn't have to know it's you who made the call, but it's the interventions they can get to help them out of the situation now go into play. Not about removing the kids, because the New York state law is not to remove the kids from the parent, it's to remove the abuser from the home. So it's not about separating the kids from the parent. It is about separating the abuser from the home. So 9 times out of 10, the abuser would have to leave the home and the children will stay with that primary caregiver who was usually the victim.
Wow. That's news to me. And that should be very enlightening to all of our New York residents out there. Yeah. Don't be thinking that it's something wrong with calling ACS if it's a matter of abuse. And there's an abuser that needs to be removed from the homes.
Yeah.
Let's jump into the comments before we go into Dr. Walker's false reports that can create abuse. So, Sativa Indigo at 8:56. You can never tell about how it begins. It starts sweet and loving. It does usually start out as sweet and loving. I want to call that the honeymoon stage. And I talked about this in the previous episode where I say that you meet people and you meet their representative, right? And then after you meet their representative, then the mask comes off and then the real them shows up. And when the real them shows up, these are the type of things. But I think that there still will be kind of like some type of signs, even in that honeymoon stage, like maybe wanting to spend every waking moment with you and you guys just met each other 3 days ago. That's a little possessive. Wanting you to share your locations and you just met him last night. No. But
yes,
exactly.
Yes.
People show you just got to ask the right questions. You will definitely be able to see, but you will choose. Yes. People are susceptible to it when they aren't shown what love really is. Okay. Definitely preach, Dr. Walker. It starts in the home. What you're exposed to: low self-esteem and little beefcakes and mommy issues. Shout out to beefcakes. Yep, Eula, absolutely. Also, well, you know what? I'm gonna say the mommy issues because I feel like this person, their mom didn't even hold them accountable. It was more so like, well, what did you do to make him do this? And I thought that was crazy.
That makes me ask other questions as far as where did he see these behaviors? Maybe his mom was abused. Maybe that's what he was taught based on that. Based on that statement, I would
like, what did
question
you do?
mark.
My fault.
Yeah.
Girl, me and you can't have no conversation, baby. But also
that's a red flag too, to your point.
Yes.
That's a huge red flag if parents are like, no, that this is how it's supposed to be, or what did you do? Like, why would you cause him to go off like that?
Yeah, no. Hold your children accountable at all times.
Right or wrong.
Also, allowing those behaviors. DV is a learned behavior. A lot of men feel ownership over women. Absolutely. Men don't feel like women. They feel more intense because they're not used to showing off their emotions, so they lash out. No, Mason hangs out with the other R&B brothers, so he can't possibly.
We all singing. I'm telling you, me and all of 112.
Yes, they said yes, Mason, again. So you had some good points over there, Mason. DB is like having sex unprotected. It only needs to happen once in order to get pregnant. What?
Okay.
That's one way to look at it.
That is a way
Definitely.
to look at it. Love can be dangerous. When someone falls in love, it be detrimental. No, sweetheart, love is not supposed to be dangerous. I didn't say it's supposed to be dangerous. Love is supposed to feel great, not dangerous at all. People can become obsessed or belittle a person. It is supposed to be uplifting, inspiring, and caring. When it becomes excessive, then that is when it's not normal, and our senses will tell us to get out of that situation. And I agree. When your spider senses start tingling, baby, you need to start running. Hello.
It also goes back to what your sister has shared with you in terms of the quote, which is from Fannie Lou Hamer, when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Absolutely.
But that's for newer abusive relationships. but the depths of relationships that have been 20 some odd years. Case in point, and this I might be dating myself right now, Lord God. If you ever watched the Archie Bunker show, All in the Family.
Okay, yes, All in the Family, yes.
Okay.
Mason looks like oh damn. So that was a whole abusive relationship.
Why?
Look how he spoke to Edith. He stifled himself. Shut up. Go in the kitchen. That was emotional abuse. And all she would run around and say is Archie, Archie. It was emotional abuse.
Nick at night. I've seen it.
It was functional, emotional abuse. And that exists in a lot of relationships.
What about married with children? Was that abusive too?
That was like it was course abuse.
That went both ways.
Went up to each other like ping pong. But it's like looking at life in a different lens to recognize what abuse is to you, because everyone has their own boundaries of what abuse is. Like getting smacked in the back of the head might not be abuse for Mason. It might be abuse for somebody else. Like if your girlfriend walked by and just smacked you in the back of the neck, like gotcha, you may not view it as abuse. I may question that, but there's some men who may be like, this chick just hit me.
Smack me.
So it's recognizing also your boundaries. Like you can talk about DV on the surface of early interventions of DV, but when you look at cases that have been going on for 20 some odd years throughout the whole marriage, what do? You've learned how to be, that became your comfort zone. Doesn't make it right, but that became what you knew how to operate in.
That was crazy. You just enlightened me once again. You rising as always. So for her cause, because I did not know that Archie was
okay. Yeah, but opposed to like say good times. James was not abusive all the time, but when he went in, he went in. The difference between the two for me was they always came back to the table and they spoke about what was going on in the household. Right.
I gotta go watch Good Times tonight.
Nobody does that anymore. I was to say your situation, I love it because you explained to your kids what was right and what was wrong in that situation. And they grow up with an understanding that abuse is wrong. Hitting is wrong. Some people don't do that.
Oh, so they just some people get abused and never have a conversation with their children about anything, and they just act like it never happened.
They'll say stuff like, say it was the husband who abused the wife. I have cases. Daddy didn't love me, so that's why he beat me. And if you're not careful, he'll beat you. So now you're using your child as a plot twist to win the affection. And now he's equating abuse with some kind of love because I've seen you do it and you didn't fight back, so it must be okay. So that, like some of the people in the audience said, it is a learned behavior because it's not being checked from when it starts.
Yeah, no, we're gonna get into how I dealt with my children in regards to this a little further down the line. Mason, were you done with the questions with the comments? Did you just like?
Oh no, we're done with the comments.
Are you done? I no. Somebody was talking about their domestic. They shed light. No, you don't want to.
No, you tell me, Tom. We go to it.
Okay, so yeah. Let me see. I have been in an obsession-filled relationship. It was hard as hell to get out of there. Trust me, been there. I had to fight my way to get out of the relationship physically to the death. It was when I almost killed him that I got out. Well, thank God that you didn't end up in jail, that you didn't actually kill anyone, and that you actually got out of that relationship. Tick, tick, boom. That's right. DV is so unpredictable. You can't call what's going on or what's happening in the person's mind. Sometimes you end up trying to leave and then they snap. Men are very likely to kill their women. Some women are abusive to their men verbally and mentally. Yeah, I wasn't letting him kill me. I was going to kill him first. Okay. Sometimes the kitty too good. You want to do that if she ever fuck somebody else. Oh, goodness. Even the thought drives you crazy. Hey, guys. Moms never hold their sons accountable. Thank you, Yvonne. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in during your break. Abuse is that damn stick y'all got with absolute domestic abuse. So she's saying that when they was whipping us with sticks or switches, that was abuse. But absolutely, we know that that's abuse. I hope people know. I hope nobody else that's child abuse.
Because I got hit with plenty of switches.
Oh, that was abuse. Just want you to know.
Just fine. It works for my generation.
Oh goodness.
Gotta get my own switch in the tree.
That's real abuse. That's some other type of stuff. Well, what is the false reports that can create abuse, though, Dr. Walker?
So false reports are women who lie about being abused to get shelter placement. False reports are women who lie about men to jeopardize their employment. Women who lie about men who lie on women about abusing their kids. Any kind of lie that you foster up against someone to get an upper hand against them is also a false sense of control and a narrative that never existed. How many cases have I worked with where women have lied on the men beating them because they wanted to get into a DV shelter and not go into a DHS shelter? Hundreds. So you have men walking around with these false allegations, can't get jobs now because they have to go to DV training for something they never did because a woman wants to be in a nice, comfortable DV shelter.
Oh.
Yeah, that's it.
Ladies, let's not do that. People,
men too.
I was about to ask you that.
In the past year, I do consultant work for a shelter. I have seen, and I'm going to tell you, 89 cases of men who were reporting DV who now have custody of this kid, of their kid, to be in the shelter. And there was never any DV.
Well, first of all, I would think that men are like less likely. I know now in this new day and age, they're like they're calling. No, they are. They're calling it in. You heard Slick on. He said he's calling. He's calling it in.
I don't know.
But and he's big, and he said, like the cops were laughing at me and everything, but no, she hit me. She abused me. So I don't know. Back in the day, it wasn't that many reports of men reporting that they were being abused.
Of course not. I mean, you have to think about it. It's the bravado of a man.
Huh?
It's the stance of a man. You take away their manhood to say she beat me, she smacked me. So what? And the sad part, and again, is that the laws are designed to take the woman's side because they're looked at as the weaker
of the two,
the weaker vessel. That's the only reason why DV cases that are called in, they take the side of the female because she's known or she's viewed as the weaker vessel, not knowing she'd have set it off on him before he smacked in the face. I'm just being 100% honest. I know people are gonna be mad, but let's talk about it. Most of the time in my cases that I work with, the females have admitted to starting fights and arguments and then calling the case against the boyfriend. And they get and there's nothing that happens to them. The man gets locked up, 48-hour hold, the missed time at work, and these people got city jobs. When you have a city job, you lose your job for DV cases for at least 6 months. You on the streets with no benefits and no pay.
That is crazy.
And sometimes it's different motives. It's something happened, something that they did, and they're like, I'm going to get you back. And the way they go about getting them back is by falsifying some claims.
I witnessed this girl I was working with go to her boyfriend's house. She asked me to go with her. She was supposed to be picking up some things. She went in there, started questioning him. They got into a whole altercation. I was like, do I go and run up in there and help her, or what's going on? Like, the mom comes home, she gets her stuff, but then she ends up being with him, and they've been together for like 20 years. But I just can imagine what this relationship looks like now. I don't know where she's at, but that's what that just made me think of. Because then she ended up going to the DV shelter, and I was like, well, this is what this was about. Like, so that makes
sometimes that's the plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Section 8, then you're set for life in New York. Section 8 sets you up. It puts you on a path to priority.
It does. Number one.
What's your take on male abuse?
Male abuse is, for me, very underreported. Male abuse to me is more emotional than it is physical. And I think that it damages men to a core place, especially a man with values, where they won't put their hand on the female because they value themselves, and it speaks to their inner person. It speaks to their self-esteem. It speaks to their manhood. It challenges their thoughts about who they know they really are, and it puts them in a place of minimizing who and what they stand for.
Mason, what's your take on that? Mason, what's your take on that? Are you reporting it?
Yes.
Somebody slapped you, you reporting it?
You know what's funny? Honestly, I probably wouldn't. I'm not even gonna hold you a lie. Like, that's not my first go-to. My first go-to as a black man in America is never to call the police. That's not usually my first thing to do. But in that scenario, like, I honestly wouldn't right away call the police. I think I would remove myself. Will probably be my first thing. Get out ASAP. Get out, like the movie. Just get out.
Holding you hostage. She's blocking the doorway. She's like.
Well, for me, it's like there's other ways out the house, the room. Unless there's one way in, one way out. We know, like, Def Trav, is that what this? Listen. I'm on the first floor. I got an entire floor.
You at her house.
I'm at her house. She only got one window.
She lives on the 15th floor.
15th floor. Oh my god. I'm gonna call 911 and ask for a pizza.
What?
I want to just share this with you guys. Do you know the number one way men are abused?
Emotionally.
Not emotionally.
Financially.
The physical one is stalking. Women will stalk men until there's no avail.
That's true.
I probably done did some stalking.
Social media. Work.
Social media, work, sitting in front of your house, who's coming and going. Calling your parent, calling your girlfriends, calling your kids. When that's how women stalk. So it's the female version of physical abuse is stalking.
So I've been abused.
1 out of 18 men have been. One out of 18 men have been stalked by a current or past female acquaintance.
I've been stalked. Oh, I've been abused. I'm here thinking I've never been abused. I've been abused.
No, you in the streets.
I definitely am. I'm abused.
So all the
I'm not laughing at it, but it's because nothing, really happened seriously. But stalking, like, that's happened. I've had people wait outside. I've had people wait outside my house for me to get off work, not knowing that they were there. I walk up the block and I see them, like, hey, what you doing here? Like that's happened. Social media, obviously, that's a normal thing.
That's not normal. Had that. Don't say that's normal.
I'm saying that's normal because I just think that people stalk everybody on social media, but I mean, that's the beginning stages. The house thing was a little different. The couple of times that happened. But stalking wasn't a thing that I equated to abuse or any type of domestic violence. So now that Dr. Walker just brought that to my attention, I was really just sitting here like, wait a minute, then I guess that has happened.
Wait a minute. So when you seen her outside your house, and you was like, hey, what you doing here? And you didn't invite her. Did you let her in?
No, we stayed outside and talked. You ain't coming back inside. Like, wait a minute, I got some stuff in there. Like, I don't want you breaking nothing that I own. Let's talk right here. Why are you upset that you did something wrong? Tell me now. I'm just leaving. That's all I'm doing.
I wasn't even staying here. I was coming to check the mail and head out. I wasn't staying. Go back to your car, get in, drive away, find another parking spot.
For me at that time, it was like, I'll do anything to stay outside. We could talk about anything. I'll talk with you outside. We just not going inside. My thought process was, I'm not gonna break nothing, or you not gonna break nothing. Basically. So it's like, it was just my stuff. So I was like, we could talk all night out here. Like, sit on this step, right there. Like, what are you feeling? You're mad.
Do you think that person, well, obviously that person had the ability to break things or something? You knew there was a red flag there at some point.
No, I just wasn't going to chance it. The fact that you came and you know that, like, we no longer together. I said, I don't want to talk to you. And you came to make me talk to you because I think that was just for me. For me, it's not even like she ever broke anything, but that just was like weird. So I was like, all right, we can stay outside and talk. I'll even walk you back up the block to get on the, the bus. Like,
make sure you go back to work.
I want to make sure you're out of here.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll get you an Uber if you need it.
Another fact is that 8% of men who do report domestic violence have been shot or stabbed.
Wow. Y'all are out here stabbing these guys and shooting them?
And 5% are actually killed by their partner, whether it's a female or a male intimate partner. They are killed. And females are known for poisoning. I can give you I don't know if I have time to give you like a 2-minute funny antidote. I don't, this is not about me. So just want to be clear. I have an aunt whose husband was cheating on her and they had they had a lot of rocky relationships. So she would feed him cement. He got blockage in his arteries, went to the hospital. They was like, well, how did you get cement in you? So in order for him to admit that he was cheating and eating at different people's houses, he would have had to share that information. So he just pleaded the fifth. I didn't know.
Wow, so she got off scot-free basically because
he couldn't pinpoint.
You know where you caught it.
Right. This is about 15, 20 years ago.
Sheesh.
You know what's so funny? Not funny. Nothing funny about this. I just want you guys to know that I'm not saying anything's funny. That's my, choice of language and words. But I knew somebody who was put in like laxatives and like goat wheat. And this is not as extreme as cement, but goat wheat, if you don't know what goat wheat does to people, it kind of makes them horny, right? But putting excessive amounts of goat wheat
made them super horny.
No.
You're gonna walk around with the stiffy for the rest of the day. Punishment. Here you go. Hold that stiffy. Go to work now. Point at everybody.
You're gonna be shitting on the toilet with the
stiffy in the toilet. Oh man, I'm so sorry, guys.
In the toilet. So that to me was a form of abuse. I said, "Oh, girl, you is crazy."
Shaking my head.
Shout out to her. I'm still her friend. All right. So
all abuse. That's all abuse.
We laugh now, but somebody's crying.
Somebody's crying, and I'm so sorry, y'all. So how could the abusive childhood as well as the victim's childhood contribute to the circumstances at hand? I don't want to blame. I know that they say, well, we already talked about the fact that you see it and encounter it as a child and you then reenact it as an adult. I did witness growing up my mom being abused at times, but I never thought that it was okay. And she never told me that it was okay. But I don't know if that kind of had, an effect as to why I stayed as long as I did. I think I was just making my own choices. I don't personally want to blame it on anything I experienced in my childhood. I only want to blame it on the fact that I wanted my children to have a childhood that I didn't have, which is both parents in the home. I wanted to have that family dynamic. And so I stayed. And we already determined that he must have already experienced his mom being slapped on or something to think that was okay, or his friends, which when you dating a certain type of man, like, you know how they said Mason hangs out with all the R&B dudes, well, he was a street dude. So if you dating a street dude, their morals and values is a little different than, the R&B type dude. So I needed to pick a better candidate to be able to date, and which I have now, because
Shout out to side panel. I would do the
You know, I had
gunshots
to
and
before I get
everything.
off the show and Mason be like, you can't stop
Let's do that flaw.
Just in terms of like the childhood abuse, as you already did know, there is a learned behavior. However, I have a client patient who witnessed her mom. Her mom lived in, her mom hustled. She was a hustler. So she witnessed her mom being around a bunch of men, and one of the guys the mother was dating was, that he would beat her, even shot her in the foot. So she was exposed to it at an early age. As she grew up, it wasn't so much the abuse, it was more of the emotional disconnection that driven the low self-esteem and loneliness. And she succumbed to doing whatever she needed to do to keep a man, which was self-abuse and allowing men to use her as they saw fit. Because that's what she saw from her mom. And not so much always sexual, just being like a doormat, being used, being taken advantage of. Those are also issues with abuse and domestic violence. So and when you're a child, if you have a child and you are in a domestic violence situation, you need to really talk to your child, even if it's something that you have accepted in your life. Never normalize it for a child, because it's not normal. It's not healthy, and it's not normal.
And that's why it goes kind of into like our next question with domestic violence and abuse and its effects on children. So I said that I would address it here. As Dr. Walker said earlier in the show, I would talk to my children afterwards, because a lot of the times, I will say my children weren't necessarily present, and I'm grateful for that. But the times where they were, especially because I'm raising a man, it was very imperative for me to have those conversations with him. And yeah, they were tough, because I do have like open dialogues with my children where I allow them to express themselves in its entirety to me, no matter how it may sound, or what we were raised to think was okay and not okay. No, I want you to tell me how you feel. I want you to tell me what you were thinking when this happened. In a particular situation, and it's so crazy that we're doing this topic today, because last night at dinner, my son is 15, and this incident happened, I want to say 7 or 8 years ago. So he brought up the time where this man came through my fire escape, and I woke up with him in the bed touching me. I was on sleeping pills, muscle relaxers. I had put him outside my house, said, hey, leave, you're trying to start a fight, an argument. I don't want to fight and argue with you. Don't feel well. Took my meds, went to sleep, woke up with this man in my bed. Nobody let you in. I had a bolt lock on my door. No, you came in through the fire escape. This was the second time that he had came through the fire escape. And so I woke up, of course, irate and fighting, but I knew my son was in the room. He had thought that nobody was probably there. Or he just didn't care. I'm not even going to say he thought nobody was there. He just didn't even care who was there at that point. My son did say that he stayed quiet because he knew what was going on, but he just stayed quiet. But it's still traumatizing for him, obviously, because based on the conversation that we were having last night, I could tell that that's still something that he may think about from time to time, even though I haven't been engaged with that person in forever. You know what I mean? So there's some work that needs to be done there. And it was at that particular moment when that happened with my son there, I was like, I gotta go. So it wasn't to me, it wasn't like the extreme, right? Oh, gunpoint. No, this happened after gunpoint. And it was like what she said, what Dr. Walker said. When I had to look at my children, and my son said to me, Mommy, we can't keep going through this. And when my son said, Mommy, we can't keep going through this, that's when I made the conscious decision we will no longer go through this. It was at that moment. And I'm very happy that my daughter wasn't there to experience that. But my daughter and how it affected her was one day we were driving, and he was like, I'm going to put y'all out on the side of the road. He wanted to put me out on the side of the road, but I had his kid with me. And I made him drive me to the destination in which I was going to. and he put her car seat on the side of the road, and she was like, "Daddy's mean. Daddy's not nice." And I was like, you know, what do you say to that? Because in this moment, with your dad telling you that he's going to put you out on the side of the road, that's abuse. You know what I mean? She shouldn't feel like trash that you put out on the side of the road. So in that moment, I was like, yeah, definitely no. It's a no for me. So it does affect them, and it affects them long term. So it's important to probably get your children some type of therapy or something. Even when she was, it's so crazy because she really wasn't present. But I did notice during her play therapy sessions that she would like be making the babies or the dolls fight each other, and that's something too. You need to pay attention to your kids when they're playing, because they tell you a lot of things in their actions when they are playing. So that was my experience about how it affects and the effects that it can have on children. Dr. Walker.
It's really hard with kids, and depend on the age of the child and their reasoning of understanding, which begins at age 7. Play therapy is usually one of the tools utilized to help deconstruct the child's understanding of trauma, and it also helps to reconstruct the ideas of parental figures in their lives, or even adults in their lives, authoritative figures, and understanding that role in that boundary. With kids who are over the age of 7 who have a cognitive way of understanding, it is hearing the story from their mouth. And sometimes that's used in storytelling, in book writing, in journaling, and in giving them feedback to help deconstruct that trauma.
Mason, I know you didn't really have any personal experience. What do you think, or what did you find out when we were like, came up with these questions about to do this topic, to be the effects that it could have on children?
I mean, a lot of the things, like the fact that I brought up when we first started, that basically kids who witness domestic violence are likely to bring that to their adulthood in some way, shape, or form, whether it be the way that they receive love or give love or whatever. They equate it with love relationships, and they bring that to play in one way, shape, or form in their adulthood. So, I mean, it has long lasting effects. And what I was thinking when you was telling that story, it's sometimes you think the kids aren't around, but they see the ripple effects of it, whether it's a black eye, whether it's you stumbling around after you've been in a room, or whether it's your reactions. Kids are very intuitive of their environment, and they pay attention and they learn. They're sponges. They take things in, and it's years later that you found out that they may not have been in a room, but they heard the tussling. They heard they heard noises. They heard or the next morning they saw that you weren't walking the same way that you were walking before, or what I'm saying, different things. They pay attention. And what I've noticed is kids pay attention to the things that you really don't think that they would pay attention to. And you'll be like, look at all these good things. And they're like, no, but look at this bad thing that happened. I remember this bad thing. And I'm like, you don't remember those 100 other good things? And they're like, no, this bad thing? Let me tell you about this bad thing that you did or that happened or whatever. And I've noticed that with my kids too. I'll be like, yo, like, you had a million good things. You remember the random Tuesday where you skinned your knee, but you didn't remember like all the times you swung from jungle gyms and jumped off swings and rolled and tucked and did all that other Superman, Spider-Man stuff. But you remember the day you skinned your knee. So it's like that with domestic violence and things like that too.
And kids pay attention to things that you would think that they're not. So as my daughter got older, she's sitting on my lap, she's talking to me, and she's like, Mommy, what happened to your eye right here? And why do you have a scar on this side? And at that moment, it was like really uncomfortable for me to tell her the truth. I had to think about it like, well, do I say like your dad did this to me, or do I sugarcoat it? I'm not a sugarcoating type of parent. So I told her the truth. And I had a real conversation with her. Was he upset that I told her that? Because now she's coming to ask him about it. Like, You put a scar on my mom's eye because I didn't give her the whole story, but I'm like, this is what happened. Blah blah blah. Your dad did it. Okay. Now she wants to go check the dad. Like, so how'd you give mommy those cuts on her eye? Yeah, you got to answer that for that. I'm not even going to give her the narrative. I want you to be able to tell her that because you're a man and you should be able to be, once again, accountable for your actions. And this is sometimes how the accountability shows up. When you happen to tell your daughter, who you would never want to be abused by anyone, about how you abuse someone that she loved. Tough conversations. Gotta be ready for them if you out there making those type of choices. Because abuse is, again, a choice. Whew. I tell you, this topic is hard. Okay. Why do most women and men stay, and how long does it usually take for people to leave? Again, I think we kind of covered about why they stay, but how long does it take for people to leave? The statistics I got was okay. The statistics I got was 7 tries, at least 7 tries before they actually leave, but it can be more. Some people it takes them more times. Is there an actual number, Dr. Walker?
There really isn't. Like relationships, it's unpredictable. It's your own coping skills. It's your own will, and what you decipher to be good for you. And unfortunately, sometimes the end result is death. We hope it doesn't come to that, but sometimes it happens.
Absolutely. Domestic violence in the media. Mason.
I mean, domestic violence happens, like we were saying, or we've been saying all night long. I think one of the things we wanted to touch on was domestic violence that happened in Florida. Was it Florida with that case?
Oh, she was from Florida. Florida. You talking about Gabby Petito?
Yes. So the Gabby Petito case was a huge national story. This doesn't really happen a lot, even though there's tons of missing people throughout, and there's been a spike of media coverage lately. But in that particular case, she received national attention. I'm talking about not just local media, but CNN covered it. Several other news outlets covered it, and it was a huge thing. She ended up, being found dead. So did he. And the biggest thing was, why was this case covered more than any other case? And there's a syndrome called the white woman syndrome, where the media tends to cover white women when they are in any type of distress or anything like that, not as much as it covers other races, ethnicities. It's just a phenomenal. People tend to gravitate towards those stories a lot more, is what the media sees it as. So that's one incident where domestic violence played out in the media, where one case got a lot of attention, but there were several cases. There's a case in Long Island that you had mentioned, Kori, that didn't get the same type of attention. And that was both domestic violence, both domestic cases, but one was a national story and one barely made it to the local headlines. So
right. And with go ahead, Dr. Walker.
Just wanted to add that, if that was a black couple, she would be alive because he would have been arrested. If the police would have pulled over and they were having a DV incident or any indication or alleged, he would have been arrested and she would still be alive.
Well, that is pretty sad because sometimes it might be beneficial to be black. I don't know. I'm just joking. It is beneficial to be black.
Always beneficial.
Definitely beneficial. But I agree with you. I definitely agree with you about that. I didn't hear about the story. Remember, Mason, I just said, well, what the heck? What have I don't watch the news often.
So, I mean, it was a national story. It spread out for weeks. There was a huge manhunt to find her. They were a YouTube couple. They had a YouTube channel. They were, I'm trying to make it fast. They were a YouTube couple. They had a YouTube channel. They had, it was a whole thing where the entire nation was jumping in with tips, saying, hey, I saw these people here. Hey, I saw them having an argument here, there, the other place. Police pulled them over at one point. There's body cam videos of her speaking to the police. This was a domestic situation where he had choked her out. She ended up dying from him choking her out. He went back home. His parents wasn't cooperating. There was a whole thing. Then he disappeared. Dog the bounty hunter was involved. It was a whole scenario that stretched out for several weeks. But the nation was captivated. It was a part of every news show. It was a part of Fox. It was a part of all the major news outlets for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks until it happened. Along the way of them actually investigating her story, interesting caveat, they found several other missing people that they were not as invested in looking out for during that time. So I don't know what the number was. Was it 8, 9? But it was a lot of.
It was a high number.
In that park?
Just in the midst of searching for her, just missing people on top of missing. Oh, we think we found her. Nope, that's a black girl. Oh, we think we found her. No, that's another Indian girl. Oh, we think we found her. Nope, that's a Spanish girl. All right, keep looking. So that's basically what happened.
The story for the Long Island girl is basically that she was stuffed in the trunk of a car by her boyfriend. Is that the story?
Yep.
And that definitely should. She was black, so she didn't get that much shine, as Mason said, but she should have. That was happening right all in our backyards.
And there's several stories of this. It's no longer just an isolated incident where this happened once or twice. It's several stories that are like this. So I mean, the media does play out to they're captivated by a particular set of people.
What? So what? How can people receive help? What is the ways to get yourself free from abuse? What's the best way to move forward?
Who are you asking?
Anybody?
Mason?
Go
ahead, doctor. This is you. This is all you.
There are plenty of hotlines that you can call. 1-800-NYC-WELL is one that's really active now. If you're looking for therapy, you can go to 1-800-BETTER-HELP. They do virtual online help. Definitely, if you're not even sure that you're in a domestic violence situation, you can seek mental health domestic violence screenings at your local hospitals and clinics. Definitely talk to your own primary care providers, your doctors, your nurses, your CNAs. Talk to somebody. Somebody's out there willing to listen and help you.
And what we're going to do is we're going to put a bunch of those numbers in our description. So you can scroll down. You can look into our description on all our platforms. We're going to put it on everything. If you're listening, watching to this, it'll live forever as long as YouTube is up. So it will be in our description as soon as we finish airing here.
Also, you can text START to 88788. And you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. Don't ask me what numbers that is, but because it's safe. Safe.
Stay safe.
Stay safe. So we about to wrap up. We just want to jump into the comments right now, and we gonna give our message to the victims, and we gonna head out. Lord, I don't even know. Let me see. Y'all were going in. A lady's promise I overstand. I got hit with switches. Wow, that's crazy. I did not know that. New York City got to do better. Abuse is serious. I've been abused by men and my father. Lesson learned. Listen to men when they say I will hit a bitch because that's your warning and he will hit you. Okay, that's not always the case, Dr. Walker. I don't know. That's why now when I date, I ask the question, do you hit females? And if they say yes, the interview is over. I would never stalk a man. Interview. It was the other way around for me. Wow, ladies. Damn cement, and it didn't kill him. Yeah, there was abuse. I handled it. Okay. Is it possible for abuse to become a love language?
That's a good one.
Abuse is never a love language to me. Abuse is just what it is. It's physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's financial. It's something to overlord over someone, to take advantage, to demean, to diminish the person in their life. So it's never a love language. Even if you guys are speaking the same language of abuse, of I want to be abused, so abuse me, It's dysfunctional at its finest.
Yep. Controlling behavior.
I said absolutely because I was referring to the fact that the women or the people that say that they don't believe that the person loves them unless they hit them. That's their particular love language.
That's an unhealthy thought process. That's not a natural thought process. Is it natural to think of being mauled by a bear? Is that natural? No. It's abusive.
Right. Okay. Well, then that answers your question, Mr. Peterson. Why do women stay with men that abuse them longer than men that don't? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. It's crazy how when you're a child and you've seen abuse in your family, you can still remember that day, that time, the smell. You can still feel the energy. Absolutely, because it was trauma. And that is, if you look in our previous episodes, we talk a lot about trauma here on Hush Your Mouth. So definitely dive into that because trauma itself gets real deep. Pause. Yes, so true is damaging to children and traumatizing to their well-being. Social skills are most definitely affected. Pay attention to the warning signs, pay attention to your intuition and the red flags that pop in your conscience. Guys, we thank you guys for all joining us here on Hush Your Mouth today for this topic. I'm so happy that we finally covered this. I look forward to bringing more stuff to them next October for this. I hope that we could bring more positive things like, well, they came up with this organization, they came up with this shelter, or you know what I'm saying, services for these type of things, because it is very far and few. It's still a becoming known type of thing. You know what I mean?
So awareness. So
you can find me at lemon_me3. You can find me.
You're still not used to it. It's so funny to me. Go ahead.
You can find me here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you log in at 8 to your YouTube account, you can comment. You can subscribe. I want you to subscribe. I want you to hit your notification bell.
Please. Tell a friend to tell a friend.
And engage with us. So tell a friend, share. And they can find you here Tuesdays and Thursdays or on any R&B station, radio, platform.
Yes, R&Bing it up. As always, you can find me on Instagram at YMVS_ It's Mason. Every Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're here rocking it out. Log on at 8. We go live at 8:15. We drop 2 podcasts a week. We do 2 YouTubes a week. We rocking. And we talk about a lot of different things. Spotify. You can basically find us on any streaming platform. Type in Hush Your Mouth. You'll find us there somewhere. But our main thing is YouTube during our live recordings, where you could actually comment and participate, because we want to know from you guys.
Dr. Walker, where can they find you?
When you invite me here to your show.
If you guys are interested in having therapy with Dr. Walker, please just DM me, and I will point you in the right direction. DM the Hush Your Mouth page if you have any interest on seeking therapy. Again, BetterHelp in New York City. I'm not sure if you are watching from anywhere else. But as always, until next time, speak out or hush your mouth.
Later.